Good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of City Hall Live. I am Joe Abeta coming to you live from City Hall. And today our guest is Joshua Elicio, the IT Department Director. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing well,
Or
thank
Director of IT, right?
Director of IT, that's fine.
There you go.
Sure.
You doing good?
I am doing well, yes.
Yeah,
I am.
thanks for coming on. It's been a
Yeah.
while since we've had you on, and I'm glad you. I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate you coming by today. But I want to talk to you about some things that might help the community out there.
Absolutely.
Right, because you have given in the past some classes on viruses and phishing and things like that. So maybe we can just maybe give some helpful tips to the community, and also later on we can talk about what the city's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with phishing. Let's start with email.
Sure.
Tell us the potential issues with email.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot, but
absolutely.
what are the top ones?
Yeah, definitely. So you had mentioned phishing, and right now, from an industry trend perspective, we are seeing quite a bit of phishers. So let me explain what phishing is. So number one, basically, it's a bad guy sitting somewhere in the world that is sending out millions of emails, hoping that a unsuspected user will click on a link. Within that email itself. It could be anything from, hey, I need your W-2, or I need some tax information, or we need to reset your password for your banking account number. So they come in various flavors. These emails are very persuasive.
And sometimes the title, the name is like a person that you may know. It's similar
that's
to
correct.
Yeah, how do they do that?
Well, it's what you just described right now is called spoofing.
Okay.
So basically, there are programs out there that will allow you to take an alias of somebody's legitimate email account.
Okay.
And when a bad guy, again, whether it's through phishing or another method, they could take on a different alias.
Okay.
And from that perspective, that's where it looks very persuasive. It looks very legitimate to be able to say, yeah, my boss is sending this email. I guess I ought to respond.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in moments like that, there will be unsuspecting users that will click a link and unfortunately give up information that would be unbeknownst to them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I noticed, say I know a guy here at the city. I'm just making this name up, John Franklin. Right. And then I might get something that says Jonathan F. Franklin or something like that in there, and I'll say, oh, okay, let me see what he wants, and it might say, Joe, just if you can download this real quick, it'd be great.
And that's a great example. What happens is that within the domain itself, email, I should say, coming from the quote-unquote spoofer, it will have something of that effect, something that looks, Joshua to Josh or what have you, and it may look legitimate from the very get-go, but then when you start scrutinizing a little bit more of what that email address is and where it's really coming from, that's when the red flag should really go up.
Yeah, and what I always do, and I don't know if this is, you can tell me if I'm doing the right thing, I'll go and click on the address to see if it's a legitimate city address, or if it's an address that is a Gmail or a Yahoo or something that I recognize, saying, oh, I know this person, they have this address. And then I'll realize that it's not real.
Yeah.
It's, with a .uk.seek, whatever.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
So, and that really is one of the good first steps that individuals that receive a large amount of emails should take. And when you think about it, you think about these bad guys that are sending out all these emails. And what's really interesting is that there are some various steps that an individual can take to actually put some legitimacy on it. So number one is, where is it coming from? Where's that domain? Number two, the subject. Sometimes the subject may not be all clear. Number three would be the email itself. A couple examples in that email would be something to the effect that the grammar is not right. It may be asking for something that's out of the ordinary. There may be the conjugation of the sentences may be off. And the signature block on the bottom of the email may be something that you've never dealt with before. And so, again, those specific emails are really to trick an individual. Basically, it's what you call social engineering. And so a lot of these bad guys know that wherever they're sending it to, there may be IT help there. And so most IT departments are in the midst of a migration or changing out emails or whatever the activity may be. And so the bad guys prey on that. And so they hope that they can get somebody that says, oh, hey, the city of Santa Fe is migrating over to a new email system. So let's go ahead and throw Office 365 in there as a subject line and see what we can get. So essentially, so when you look at it from a physical aspect, you're just throwing in your line into a lake or a pond and hoping to catch something. And that's exactly what phishers do, is that they just send out millions of emails hoping to get a small percentage, because a lot of valuable information can be taken from that.
Just from one person, like from their computer, or it just depends, huh?
Well, so what happens is that usually your spammers, your phishers type of thing, they have what you call bots, or what you would call just a large amount of resources that they could just send emails just by the thousands. And within the code itself, if somebody does bite on that email, or I should say click the link, then it will respond directly to that bad guy. And then from that point, the bad guy will then start having interface with that individual, or whatever is in the code itself will then transmit that information back to the bad guy.
Gotcha.
For whatever purposes.
I gotcha. Yeah. So, okay. So, and they're just looking for any kind of information that's useful.
Absolutely.
Right?
So, there are different variances of computer viruses out there. And so some bad guys will be looking for, well, maybe your social security number. So they'll send you an email to say, hey, we need you to click this link. We need, because your password has been compromised. And so you click the link and it comes up with for example, a Bank of America legitimate looking website. And to the user, it's, okay, yeah, let me go ahead and enter my username and my password. And then at that point, once you hit click again, then that information gets transmitted.
And they now have your username and password. They now have your username and password.
So that's just one example. Another one would be what we call a Trojan horse. So a Trojan horse basically is code that will just sit on your computer until a dedicated time of what that code is wanting to gain. So it could be anything from tracking your web habits to even checking another example, checking your bank account, from work. They can grab that information and then transmit that out at a given time.
So, is there some kind of a defense for this? I mean, other than what if you do say click, or the best thing is not to click? That's the best defense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually multiple. So there's one on the personal front, and then there's one on the technical front.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and give a couple tips on the personal front.
Okay.
So first off, if you could imagine, you have your house, your domicile where you live.
Yep.
And when you look at how do you protect that house, you can say, I'm going to put up a fence. I'm going to put up,
get a dog,
wiring a dog, a monitoring system, floodlights, et cetera, et cetera. You can put all of those defenses up. But what if the UPS man is going to deliver something to you? And I use UPS just as an example.
Yeah.
Comes to your house and say, hey, I have a package. You may or may not remember that you have a package. And then you allow that individual all the way in to your house to drop off that package. That's phishing for you. So basically, an individual would allow, by clicking on a link, that bad guy to come in. So you could have all of the perimeter security that you could afford or can handle, but once you click the link, or once you let that person into your house, all your defenses come down. So that would be from a physical standpoint, an analogy. The technical standpoint would be just that. It's what we call security in depth. So you would have access control lists of where the internet comes into your cable modem at home, or your gateway, your firewall here at work. Then you have your firewalls, and then you have your antivirus and anti-malware systems on your desktops, and You have education. So there are so many different things that you can do. But I will say this, there isn't a silver bullet.
Yeah.
You know, if there are any bullets, it's the individual, number one, being vigilant on what they're receiving, and on the technical aspect, having that security in depth to ensure that whatever is coming in is going to be legitimate, and you don't have to worry about what is that email, or if I click on that link, what is it going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. So on a personal level, I mean, those are great tips. Now, I know that you being the head of IT here at the City of Santa Fe, there's probably a barrage of people trying to get in the city's network, right?
Well, you know, and that's a very interesting question there. So we have been ongoing education here at the city.
Yeah.
And just recently I was able to pull some data from our email filter here. And we're averaging around 400,000 emails that are being blocked, that are considered either spam.
That's great.
Malware. It could be, you know, what we call gray mail, which is like maybe it is, maybe it's not type of thing. So we have over 400,000 emails that are just being blocked, that the users are just not seeing. And again, I get back to the silver bullet analogy, is that we can't block everything. And the reason we can't is that the bad guys are always shifting their methodologies. They know how email filters work. They know how humans work. And so it's just a matter of tweaking their technology to be able to say, okay, well, if this organization blocked me from this domain, then I'm going to go to another domain, but with a different email address. And so it's a constant cat and mouse game that we're playing right now, or that any organization would be playing.
Yeah, and you know, and sometimes you could say, hey, John, this is Joe. Click on this real funny, you got to see this, it's real funny, and you click on the link, and it's not funny.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And you're letting the fox in the hen house type
you got
of thing,
it.
right?
It goes back to the whole analogy, is that once you click on that link, then at that point you now just let the bad guy in. And again, because there are different code sets that are out there of how these viruses are put together, we just don't know what information is going to get exfiltrated. We don't know if they're going to sit in our network, because now it opens up that pipe of communication between the user and the bad guy. So there are so many unknowns if a person clicks on a link. But we know that when a person clicks on a link, bad stuff happens.
Gotcha. Okay, so now that we talked about the problems, okay, so let's go personally.
Sure.
What can a person do personally?
Sure.
To, besides being smart enough to be able to, but to have some kind of a software or something that blocks it on a smaller scale.
Right.
And then we'll talk about the bigger scale.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a home-based perspective, very, very important, number one, as you set up your internet router, that you change the default security settings on it. I mean, that's really the first thing that you do.
Okay.
The second thing that you would do is make sure that your home computers have antivirus, anti-malware software on there. That is an absolute must.
Okay.
I mean, you have to have that on there to be able to mitigate just the amount of bad code that is out there.
Gotcha.
And from that perspective, you're mitigating probably 98% of your problems at that point.
Okay.
And so there are a number of tools that you can download for free. And as we get into the bigger picture, I'll explain, but the City of Santa Fe has partnered with a antivirus, anti-malware company called Sophos. Sophos actually has a free home version that will give you X amount of protection, which is like your 98%. You pay a few extra dollars, $30, $35, somewhere of that nature, and you actually get the full home-blown suite of antivirus, anti-malware.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Man, we haven't even talked about phones and stuff.
No, we haven't.
But I know that we can say that for another episode.
Right.
And then city-wise, we're using Sophos also.
That is correct.
Okay.
So city-wise, I get back to the analogy of having all of this security stuff. So, you know, we have security on our gateway, we have security on our firewalls, we have security on our in our internal network, where we're what we would call a virtual LAN type of environment, where we're segregating networks. And as an example, if one network gets infected, it's not going to affect everything else.
Gotcha.
So we're segregating
There's
networks
a
out.
series of gates, right?
You got it.
Like if you have a submarine and there's a hole in the submarine, we're going to cut off, or even in a ship,
You got it.
you would cut off the certain area
That's a
for the
perfect
water even
analogy.
going further, right?
Perfect analogy.
Okay.
And then it gets down to the desktop level, where we actually have near real-time capabilities.
Gotcha.
So, as part of our partnership with Sophos, we're getting the attack signatures to detect viruses that are out there in near real time. So, as these viruses are being proliferated, whether via email or even going to a malicious website, Sophos will have that capability to mitigate any impacts, with regard to infection.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's a tall order, man. Because I know from previous interviews and from previous presentations that you've put on,
Right.
that this is a 24/7 thing. There's no breaks.
It's
It's
ongoing.
a second. Is it a millisecond?
Yeah.
It's by the millisecond,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
absolutely.
it really is. So
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible. And I know I can keep you here forever, but
Sure.
I know you're a busy guy and our time's up. But Joshua, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to at least express my overall interest
Yeah.
in security.
Yeah.
And not only that, to be able to help folks who watch
Yeah,
this
these are
video
gonna be
to
great.
able to take this to heart, education,
Yeah.
because this is a serious issue.
Yes.
Don't click the link.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Folks, this has been City Hall Live. I want to thank Adrian Elicio for filling in for Christina. She was a one-person show behind, so I want to thank her. Folks, thank you for watching. Have a safe week. Have a great week. Adios.